All right. I think we're live, you guys. See a few of you in there. Welcome back to a very impromptu last minute coaching stream. We weren't going to do it today, but then I don't know, things changed. So you guys are the lucky few that could have a private coaching session today. Um,
I'll tell them what changed.
oh, well, okay. We decided to do it because sick brag, I won the Sunday Blitz. And so we're going to go over the final table of that. So most of today, at the beginning at least, the first 30 minutes will be about final tables and tournament play. So if you want to gear your questions towards that, we'll answer them in that first bit. And if you have any questions at all about poker, if you're a beginner, if you just have cash game questions, any stuff, anything like that, we'll answer at the end. Or if Jesse gets sidetracked with like pulling up Floptimal or something on the side, we can kind of answer that.
How's our volume, guys? Let us know if the volume's good.
Yay! AJ made it. Ron, happy to see you in the chat as always, and Ryan Rob. Okay, you guys, let me know. I just want to start by saying that I'll say this at the end, but in 2 weeks' time, which is uh I don't know the exact date, but 2 weeks from today, whatever that Tuesday is, at this time, we are gonna be doing another one of these. So I know this one was last minute, but put it on your calendar. 2 weeks from today, Tuesday at 3 p.m., we're going to do another one of these coaching sessions that's all about cash games. Just some sort of like personal life update. I've been sort of switching gears to cash a little bit and would love to kind of dig into that with you guys alongside of us. So, anyway, we're going to jump into some final table stuff. As people are kind of trickling in, do you want to just answer Ron's question since he put it out there first?
Yeah, sure.
And
Can you?
then we'll head into the tournaments.
So Ron said, "What sizing do you use when entering or raising a hand with many limpers and many limp callers? Example: 1-2 no limit on cap. 4 limpers. I raise to 20 and everyone calls, or I open this for 6 and get 4 callers." Are you saying you raise to 20 and everyone folds, or are you saying either way,
No,
whether you go 6 or 20, everyone calls?
he's saying he raised over limpers for $20 and he still got everyone to call.
Yeah, that's what I just didn't know. Maybe he.
And then he said, I changed my, I think he's saying he opens for 6 and gets 4 callers
Yeah.
rather than limping in and getting 4 callers still. Basically, I think he's just saying no matter what size he goes, everybody wants to see a flop.
So there's two things going on. One,
Hey, Greg.
the
Hey,
way
Jim.
the way that I the way that I figure out how big I want to make it is generally I go like for the first limper, I go like 1 to 2 big blinds above what my opening size is. So let's say I'm opening in cash to 3x, right? In like a live cash game. I'd make it probably 4 or 5 if there's a limper. And the reason I go bigger than, and then for every additional limper, I add another big blind. So like 5 for 1 limper, 6 for 2, whatever, so on and so forth. If people are still like calling those sizes and you think they'll call bigger, like go the biggest that you think that they'll call with all of their hands, because that's good that they're putting in money with these bad hands. If they're never folding, you just want to have a really strong range that you're raising with. And then just think about it like this. You're not raising to get them to fold. You're raising to play a bigger pot when you have a better hand than them. That doesn't mean you're always going to win the pot, but it means there's more money in the pot when you have a good hand than when they have a good hand. That's really nice.
And oh, hello to James and Jim. Okay, Jim said, should you, this is a tournament question. Ron, let us know if that answered your open raise size question. But Jim says, should you ever just pass the time to get further in the tournament? Like basically don't play if you have a big enough stack.
Wait, what? Sorry. I didn't quite get
He's
that.
saying that if you have if you get to a certain stack size, do you ever just coast in a tournament?
I mean, maybe in like a satellite, you could coast if you get to a certain stack size, but like you still have to win all the chips to win a tournament. So
Yeah.
the more chips I get, like the less I'm coasting because, and I'm not like getting super out of line, but the like having chip lead means that you actually get to be the person abusing everyone else instead
Yeah.
of the other way around, especially at final table bubbles and final tables and on the bubble. So I'm like, if I get more chips, I'm actually more active.
Yeah. And people will be afraid of you. They're if they see that you're just kind of coasting, then they can play kind of normal ranges and kind of sneak some steals spots in there. And if you're playing more aggressively because you have the big stack and you cover everyone, they might not enter as many pots if you're behind them because they know that they have to contend with you to win the pot. So,
Yeah, in my mind, the only time I'm like coasting is when we're on a bubble
yeah.
of like a tournament where a lot of people get paid. So let's say there's like 100 left and 90 get paid, and I'm like a medium stack, and there's a couple big stacks on my table, just going for it all the time, and there's a lot of short stacks. Then I'm coasting because locking up the cash is important. I mean, I'm not like folding everything, but you want to have a pretty good hand to get involved, um, because locking up the min cash is so important, and busting before it when there's shorter stacks than you kind of sucks.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's dive in. We're going to use this hand history from Sunday as a jumping off point. Feel free to talk about other things. Like I said, we're going to just dive in. I'm going to fast forward along here. Um, and Jesse, as the coach and leading this session, is going to tell me to pause whenever he has something interesting to point out or he wants me to play a hand differently. I didn't start this recording till one player had already busted the final table. Just taking a look around the table at all the different stack sizes, I am second in chips, and I'm opening right now into the chip leader.
Yeah, so obviously that's not as good as opening into other people, but
Yeah,
them being in the big blind's kind of okay because, like, yeah, they get to continue with more hands than other people, but you still have a pretty good hand. You're in position.
yeah.
Um, if they start getting really aggressive and start three betting you a lot, making your life really tough, then you might make an adjustment and fold something as strong as this hand, maybe. But, anyways,
Well, before we actually get into this like particular hand, I feel like we should just talk about the oh, sorry. This is
yeah,
the
the whole like fast forward 5 seconds is tough
yeah.
in this.
Sorry, that was like a totally different video. By the way, you guys, this is kind of like just a sneak peek at what we do as like for him as my coach and me as this student is that I'll just record my play sometimes and then we'll just, you know, he'll pull up all kinds of stuff on the side and kind of tell me why something was right or wrong.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that was what just popped up there. Anyway, so just looking at this stack size setup, what would be your initial strategy
Yeah,
based
so
on nothing else except people's stack sizes?
I mean, we're gonna be really high card heavy with our bluffs. We don't like raising up a hand like pocket fives or sixes isn't very good because everyone, a lot of people behind us are playing jam or fold.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we're not super interested in raising a hand that doesn't block any of their shoving hands.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'd be fairly tight because there are a lot of stacks behind that can shove on us, and the big blind is not the big blind, the person you want to be in the big blind for sure. But I think this hand's still reasonable to open. And also, I just think that people don't play back at you as much as they actually should. So that's a good reason to open as
Especially
well.
on global, I've found. So it's
Yeah.
good to know your player pool, know who you're up against. AJ, good question. I guess I should definitely point that out. The payouts, we'll just skip to the end so that you guys can see the pay structure here. Um, ninth was $630 all the way up, and then you could see first was 6,600, 47, etc. So I'll leave this up on the screen for a second, but definitely good to before you settle in to start your final table, just kind of scan, see what the chip stacks are, and figure out what your overall strategy is going to be. And that's going to change dramatically depending on which stack size is to your left. Because if I didn't have that big stack in the big blind, I might even be just like open ripping sixes with all those like 15 big blind stacks behind me. But because they're going to want to outlast that 8 big blind guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable.
All right, on to the flop here. Enough chatter.
So what are your first thoughts on this flop?
So my first thoughts overall are at with him being the only person that covers me. I've got the most at the table to lose because I'm second place currently and all of these people should bust before me. So I think I want to have a lot of checkbacks on flops
Hmm.
against the big stack. But this hand is so vulnerable, I didn't know if that was
Yeah, I was like
if
considering check back. I think if you have like Queen Jack with the Queen of Hearts, it's a really nice hand to check back probably. Um, you don't get to have a lot of pair with heart type of hands. I think that I think that betting this hand makes the most sense. It is pretty. It's not like it's so much it's vulnerable as like cards change a lot, and you won't get to put as much money in the pot on later streets as you can right now when you have
Yeah.
such a strong hand. We're
Plus, we
not.
got that nice little king of hearts, which is cool. Backup
Yeah,
as a backup.
we're not losing to that much. I doubt he has. I mean, we lose to like Ace Jack.
Sorry, you guys. It's hard when this. I couldn't open this in like a separate browser, so just bear with me. All right, here we go. So let's see what I got. Went 1.6.
Why'd you do that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
So I think it's fine. I think that 1.6, especially with some ICM, you're gonna have to stop clicking.
I know. It's
Um,
not. It's not. It's just I'm gonna have to control with the mouse.
Yeah,
It's the keyboard.
Yeah, I do that a lot when we do the classes, right? I
Yeah.
keep like clicking off.
Yeah. My bad. All right, here we are.
So he's got a bunch of ace high hands that I think 1.6 makes his life pretty tough, especially if they don't have a heart in them. He's got some pairs below the tens that maybe it's not. Maybe you want to go a little bit bigger versus that. He's got a lot of hands like queen 8, king 9 type of stuff like that with some gut shots 8-7. That around this size I think makes their life kind of tough, especially if they don't have the overcard. I'd probably go like 2 big blinds. I think without ICM, I'd be going more like a little over half pot, but with ICM, you can kind of size down a little bit.
Okay.
But I think I like betting this hand. If he check raises, you have a pretty easy call.
Okay.
And then if the turn's like a blank, you probably just get it in.
Okay.
But I don't think that you are super thrilled getting it in immediately on the flop, and the fact that you have the king of hearts means that it plays pretty well as a bet call.
Okay. Hello, people. All right, Connie, hello. So thank you for the value. You're welcome, Mr. Cool. While I'm folding away, I will answer your questions. I find it difficult to make judgments when I'm in a difficult situation. Is there a special way you do it? Are you thinking about pre-flop action, possible hands your opponent might have, etc.? So I think he's just asking about hand reading in general. Like, how do you break it down along the way?
Yeah, so it's tough, man. Poker's tough because there's so much going on all at once. You've got a theory, and then you've got how your opponents actually play, and then you've got like how the field plays a certain spot, and maybe you don't know that much about your opponent, but you know how the field generally plays. And then you've got like where are we in the tournament and stack sizes. So there's a ton going on. I definitely care a lot about how my opponents play. I also care a lot about personally in tournaments about how the field plays. So I'm often thinking about, is this a spot where people even bluff that much on average, or is this a spot where people actually 3-bet with bluffs or whatever?
Yeah,
and a lot of the time the answer is no.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I would be careful taking that too far, especially if you don't have like too much experience yet. Because I think a lot of people often say, oh, they never have bluffs, and somehow they show up with the bluff. So just be careful.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, easy fold here.
Yes.
Easy peel if it folds to you. Or if Mowgli calls.
Yeah. So Spring has been opening a lot of hands.
Which he should be. Like, he should be just abusing the table right now.
I just wanted to point that out because not every chip leader at the final table is going to sort of like follow protocol. Some people just play normal ranges. They don't take advantage of their spot.
Soul FT is only 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's That's quick insane. On global. Could win a tournament wild. In 4 hours. So I love it. Yeah, so he's just I'll kind of just speed through these where we're not involved. And nobody's busting.
I kind of like seeing all the hands though.
Yeah, here I'll rewind for this one. This guy jammed.
What do you think called off here?
Yeah, what do you think about this?
I mean, you can't call these.
Yeah,
it's not that close. it's not a call. I don't think it's a call anyways.
I'm about to pull it up right now. All in, big
Maybe it
blind.
is. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
fair.
it is. Just
I
a
know like
shove.
15 deep, I think we would start folding like until like ace four or something like that.
Yeah.
If you look at
So button
15.
goes all in. Oh, at 15 big blinds,
Yeah,
he
ace
goes
four we
all in.
start out.
Yeah.
But I mean we're a little over 12, but yeah, I'd rely on the 12 chart. But like, yeah, with ICM, people are just going to be shoving considerably tighter, right?
Yeah.
There's a guy in there with. Can you go back to the? Can't really see the table.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. There's a guy in there with 10. There's another guy with 10 and a half. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're just not shoving the same amount of hands, right?
Right.
So
You also, as the chip leader, for an additional argument for the guy not he shouldn't be calling ace deuce off is that he wants all of these short stacks involved. Like
yes,
he wants them. It seems counterintuitive because you make money every time somebody busts, but when he has this much of a chip lead over the rest of the table, he wants all of these short stacks to just slowly get shorter and shorter simultaneously because they're all going to have to be even more careful around each other, waiting for the shortest stack to bust, which means he just gets to keep opening and winning free blinds every hand. But when stacks start to consolidate, he has got a lot trickier of a decision making process pre-flop.
yeah.
Um,
I don't even know if you need a pause when you say this stuff because it's just like we can just let it run almost.
yeah, my bad.
Oh, it's fine. But yeah, he should be folding here. This is like something you could probably just look in HRC, or ICMizer, Hold'em Resource Calculators, HRC. Like it won't show exactly what big dog, whatever their name is, has.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with big D. It won't show exactly what big D has because they're gonna raise like aces and some stuff like that, maybe some bluffs as well, but they won't show with them. But it's close enough.
Yeah. How about
Oh,
this?
cool. We got playback speed on here.
Yeah. It might not go smoothly, but
Yeah, and like losing those chips is it just means that Spring has to be more careful in certain spots because they're closer to other stacks, and doubling somebody up is like pretty bad. So it's just you just really don't want to put those chips at risk with some marginal spot. So like even if it was break even a call ace deuce, I'd be very unhappy with it as Spring in terms of like your strategy.
what do you
going
think
forward.
about this?
I just fold here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some people miss this, especially when you're not used to tournaments. Um, Starting around like 20 big blinds or so, or like 15, they'll still be opening pocket pairs under the gun and then folding.
Yeah, and even if it was a fine open normally, like at a final table where you're not a big stack, I just don't think we want to be opening a hand like that. Like basically if anyone but the 8 big blind stack shove on us, really sucks.
BLK, great question. I'm going to pause to answer that because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about here. Said, good evening. How long does it take when you get to the final table to know the table dynamics of these players? I think the things to look out for. Actually, why don't you answer that, Coach?
Well, hopefully you've got some idea of how people play from the final 2 tables. Like you play with half of the people at least. You probably play with some of the other people earlier in the tournament, and then also like if you're playing online, you can pull up the other table and watch it, especially if it's like, you know, if I'm at the final table of a smaller buy-in tournament, I might not be doing that. I might be playing other games. But if you're at like a big final 2 tables, I'd certainly have the other table up and watch what's going on over there and see how people play a little bit. You can't see the cards, but you can see like sizings, and you can, you know, sometimes
See
people get the
frequency,
showdowns.
like how often they're opening, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about let's say you just sat down on level 1. How long do you think it takes you to understand the dynamics of your table, and what should you be looking out for to make that process quicker?
I mean, I think that changes for everyone. I've got some ADD, so it takes me a little longer than it takes you, for instance.
That's true. That's true.
But I think you can immediately start making some assumptions about people. Like live poker is crazy because people will tell you stuff that they're just being honest, and you learn a lot immediately. Like somebody will be like, wow, I can't believe he like gave it away there, when they see their opponent make a pretty standard bluff off, and then you're like, okay, well that guy's not trying to bluff ever.
Right.
So there's like a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you can ascertain from that. And then like when you're playing online, there's a little bit less of that, but um,
But you can get it pretty quickly. I mean, I would pay attention to people. I would pay attention to how people play their big blinds. That's probably gonna tell you a lot about their overall game. If they're willing to fold their big blind 3 orbits in a row, it's pretty unlikely that they're calling enough from the big blind in the if people are min raising and stuff like that. I mean, it will happen. Sometimes you're just gonna get garbage, 3 big blinds in a row, but for the most part, if you've seen 3 orbits and somebody's just continually not defending their big blind to 1 open, they're probably on the tighter side, and if you see people peel their big blind and then just check fold a lot, um, you can pretty safely assume they're just kind of fit or fold. If they check raise a ton, if they're floating you a lot, this person is probably a little more comfortable post swap, is more aggressive in general. So I just like to pay attention to how people play their big blind because it can tell you a lot.
sure. It makes sense too if you're supposed to defend like 70% of the time in theory,
Yeah.
and you see a person fold 3 times, like they could have had the bottom 30% every time, but that's like the odds of having the bottom 30% 3 times in a row is like less than 3%.
Did your
So
ADD brain just like
yeah,
latch onto that math? It's like,
yeah,
I'm going to do some math right now. I hope that answered your question, B. Okay, let's get back to this hand. Um, so that guy who just doubled up opens from the low jack. We're peeling this, yeah? Even at a final table?
yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I think you got to be really careful about your peels against a guy like this because he should be opening quite tight.
Yeah.
Um, I would definitely fold 9-8 offsuit. I think this hand's a little too good.
Okay.
I think this is when I started watching you play actually because I kind of remember this hand. So
He's rooting for me from his
he bet
office.
almost 40%, and it's kind of funny because this is not a terribly different board than what you had. You had Jack 10x, this is like King 9x, but there's a lot of gut shots on both,
Yeah.
especially with the hands that peel pre. Um, I mean, you're just not folding a 9 for one bet, obviously. I think if you had like a really bad 5, let's say you had like 5-4 of diamonds or something, 5-3 of diamonds, maybe you probably don't feel that pre, but if you did, I think that it would actually be pretty close here. If you went like half pot, I feel like it would be really close.
Okay. So
Anyways,
so this is an easy call, but once you start to get to the bottom pairs that aren't great and
well,
they don't
like
have any backdoors, then
for instance, I think you have a pretty easy fold with like pocket fours, no heart,
yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Um, it's not an exact science, right? Like I need to look at it, but
Yeah.
that would be like my instinct.
Hello, Claudio. Plays on global. You're welcome. Craig wants to know, how do you switch the chips to big blinds? See this? I don't know if you can see my mouse, but in the top left corner, there's that little settings icon. Click on that, scroll all the way down, and check the big blind box. So
King
we
is nice.
King is nice. Yep.
I don't think at I don't know how many leads we actually have on the king when there's 2 flush draws and all the gutters missed. Probably some in theory, but I don't think at the FT I'm super interested in that. I just want to check. And if we are going to lead, I might just only lead a king or like some kind of whiff draw that I'm happy with bet folding, like or like my weakest whiff draw, like Jack 10 with a heart or something. It goes check check, so now I feel pretty damn good about our hand. He could have like jacks or whatever, but
Yeah.
he might start checking the flop with jacks or tens, so I feel fairly good about our hand. You could block like one big blind here or something and try to get called by like an ace high type of hand. One big blind's like a little under 15%. Yeah, I don't think I'd mind blocking one big blind there.
Yeah.
He's gonna have like if you go back for a second, I mean, he's going to have a bunch of like 8, 7, 6s. I think that people. Oh, he showed up with 8s.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you? Oh, I didn't know you could see their hand. I guess it's just if you bet and they fold or they
Yeah.
call. I mean, you don't get to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Check check. They'll show your hand.
He's got like a lot of 8, 7, 6s. He's got a lot of ace highs, and people are pretty bad about turning them into bluffs. So I kind of feel like, at least exploitively, like you're gonna get paid a lot by those hands, even if they probably. Yeah, I don't know. I think leading really small is kind of nice, or blocking there. It also, like, if you are beat by like Jack 9, you're gonna set the price at like 1 or 1.5 bigs or whatever,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
is kind of nice. Like that would be a. I don't know if that's correct in theory, but there are a lot of spots where blocking's good, and I feel like at least versus my opponents, it'd probably be pretty good.
All right, so now things are starting to get shorter. The big blinds got, a little less than 8.
Maybe we're even supposed to bet bigger than a lead.
A block.
Or yeah, sorry, a very small block.
Hey, Gilgamesh. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. You guys have any final table questions in particular or tournament questions about, ICM stuff in the bubble? Wow. Okay. Just let us know in the chat. So,
Oh, brutal.
so how did that go down?
He peeled the big blinds.
He peeled his big blind and just check jammed over a 1 big blind C bet.
Yeah, I think Spring's play is pretty standard.
Okay.
His opponent's gonna peel a lot because he has really short stack, so his implied odds are like he's just basically like it's really easy for him to play post, right?
Yeah.
And then he's not gonna have like every 4 and every deuce, but he's gonna check jam all of them too. So like nines are doing really well. A lot of queens are shoving pre, but I think like this is a good example of you kind of want to size up when the big blind has less than
Yes.
8 big blinds or
Yes.
9 big blinds or whatever.
I was actually really proud of myself because I was playing with K-Rab. If you guys know Kevin Rabichow, he is a sicko. He's very good. We were playing at the Win, some tournament last summer, and he was really short stacked. He only had 8 to 10 big blinds. And I went to go raise to a normal amount. When I realized last second, I was like, oh, he's short. So I made it slightly bigger. And he looked at me all cheeky. And he was like, if you made it that first size, I was calling as he bucks. And I was like, sweet, we got him.
He's such an incredibly nice dude. He would be egoless about it and just be like, nice job finding the bigger size.
Nice job finding the bigger size. Yeah.
I'd be stewing.
Alex, yes. This is the Sunday Blitz from this past weekend. So we're just kind of reviewing it, but we don't have to talk about just these hands. Anything you guys want to talk about with tournaments is fine by us. Now we're down to 7 players, and the big stack.
Button, sorry. Always turn it. There we go.
And the big stack was the one who doubled them up, so it's kind of similar situation still in terms of stack distribution at the table.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of got his chips back.
It's not it's pretty ideal for us. Is it ideal for us? I'm not actually sure.
It's not ideal. I mean, ideal would be having spring stack, but it's like
okay.
You're not hating him knocking people out.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Gilgamesh, how do you deal with someone who does too much check raising? First put your guess. What do you think your guess is?
Yeah. Good call.
Hello, Leah. I'll let you answer that, Jess.
Maybe
I told him to take his hood off. He was like, "No, I'm going with my ninja mode."
I did not say that.
Yeah, he's too cool to say that. Only us nerds. Nerds unite.
I feel like maybe I have been up for a week.
All right, Gilgamesh. First thoughts are I would be c-betting slightly less if you know you're going to be getting check raised a lot. And, so we lost another player. Was that all standard?
Can you go back? So he put in 5 bigs instead of an all in.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, I might just make it 4 so that we can get away on some boards, or 4.5. But honestly, when you get called by, if you go forward slightly, you can see the flop. He has 7s. If you get called by hijack and they're not absurd, I think you could just check fold 7s on this board. It sucks because you only have 4 blinds left.
Right.
But you're just dead.
Yeah.
Almost always. I can't even
just winning one more place is, a few $100 or something like that for a $200 final table.
You can also check. It's very realistic to check and maybe get to showdown with your hand. If you're going to put it in yourself, at least check with 7s and try to get to showdown. And then if you have to call it off, I guess you have to call it off. But I think you could check fold this hand. I just at a final table when you're essentially shoving for 10 bigs and your opponent calls in the hijack. I think on that flop texture. You just don't beat anything really.
All right, so back to Gilgamesh's question: how to deal with an opponent who does too much check raising. We already said maybe c bet a little bit less, but for more on the value heavy side.
Yeah, and
And
then don't fold much to the check raises.
don't float. Yeah, float a little wider to the check raises.
If you scroll down, you might have answered it.
Especially if they're used to, if you're seeing them check raise a ton.
Yeah.
They didn't. If you see them check raise a ton, they're gonna have a lot more bluffs in there. So you can float, and then when they give up turn and river, you know, you can like re-bluff them on the river because they've given up with their check raise bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice, Ben. Congrats. Heck yeah. All right.
It only gets easier after playing your first one too, because
Yeah.
everything feels more normal and
Yeah. Once you get used to how long things take, live, especially live tournaments like you played. So now we're down to 6 people.
I think that it's fine to put in half your stack free instead of your whole stack and see if like there's 2 or 3 all-ins behind you. But man, like I really like check folding if you get called on that board.
Yeah.
Just so hard to have the best hand. It's just nearly impossible. If he has pocket sixes and bluffs you, I guess nice hand, but you might even just check back pocket sixes and check it down.
You want to answer Craig's question? That's pretty relevant with the short stack strategy. He says, how often do you use stop and go when you are short stacked?
So if I'm like really short, like 7 blinds, 8 blinds, 6 blinds, whatever, and I peel a big blind, so now I have like between 4 and 6 behind, I definitely have some lead jams for sure. And it's composed of like some stuff that has equity but might get better to fold. So like let's say like a gut shot that is on, like let's say the board is 6-7 deuce and I have 9-10 or something. That'd be a nice lead jam because I might get some like queen highs and stuff to fold that raised pre. And then pairs, like I'm just trying to protect like a bottom pair type of hand. So for instance, I don't really lead jam on like an ace high board, right? Because I would have put my aces in pre-flop and my opponent has a big advantage and I'm not as worried about. Yeah. So, but yeah, you could definitely do some stopping going, but like people talk about stopping goes like, oh, you could just bluff them by like calling and going all in with some random hand post flop. You still need to build a range. You still need to have like probably a little bit of equity in some capacity with like the bluff side of your range, and then you want to have pairs otherwise. But yeah, you definitely want like the shorter the stacks, the more you want to lead all in. Like if stack to pot is like 1 after you peel out of the big blind, it's nice to protect your pair and not give them a free card when they always have 2 overcards to it.
Let's see. Before we get into this hand, BLK, when you reach the FT, when do you make ICM decisions and when should they be applied? Every decision at FT is ICM decision now because every single person who gets it depends obviously on the payouts, but for the most part, if they're playing a sort of standard payout structure, every single person who busts is, a few buy-ins. And if it's a huge field tournament, it's way more than that. So pretty much every decision. A lot of people study pre-flop ICM scenarios, but post-flop ICM considerations are a thing as well. Like we were talking about earlier, if you're the second biggest stack and you're playing against the biggest stack, you have the most to lose, which means you should really tighten up your c-betting range. So if you just standard c-bet on a flop texture, but you're against the chip leader, you might want to turn that into a check sometimes.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate your support.
Jesse's hoodie is great. He wore this to a Knights game. If you guys have been to a Knights game at T-Mobile, and the security guy who let him in was like so pumped about his hoodie. It's like a fluffy. He was like, "Are you wearing
like
a teddy bear?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we got going on. Spring just is open ripping everything now. He does it again, and Nags calls off. Let's see what they end up with. Oh, okay. Nice time to wake up with that, Nags.
Wow. So I must have looked away, but I remember watching this FT and I didn't think the spring lost any all-ins really. So
yeah,
I thought for sure he was going to river the king or something.
He lost 8 bigs.
Yeah.
Um, Alex has a question for you here in the chat.
Are you more likely? Yeah, I'm more likely to get aggressive near the bubble if there are very few stacks that have a lot more than me. So like if I have the biggest stack, I'm going to be very aggressive on the bubble, and if I have a similarly large stack to some other people, I'm probably going to get aggressive as well and just see how they respond to it, because establishing, like if I win some pots and establish like a big chip lead at my table, then I just get to go nuts on my table until the bubble's over.
Andy, what's up? How are you? Hello, Mr. Sadie. And James, that's a great question. When around 10 big blinds, would you ever go for a limp shove with queens plus at a full final table?
I would. Short answer, yes. Certainly sometimes. It would depend on who's behind me at the table. I think I would probably pure limp it from the small blind, and I might do some trap, like a bunch of trapping from the button, potentially. But it depends on the stacks and everything else. Like, if there's a bunch of other short stacks, maybe I want to have some limps on the button or something like that. So maybe I also limp queens as a trap. But if there's somebody behind me that's just going ballistic, I certainly would just mix it in anyways, because that would be fun. It's not something I do very often, no, but outside the small blind, I would limp it in the small blind a lot. Assuming my opponent in the big blind's at least reasonably aggressive.
Yeah, so what do you think? What's the range of hands? Like, how many hands should Spring just be ripping here? Is it 100% of hands, or is it
No,
80%,
especially with you having 20, I don't
50%?
think it's. I think you can rip a lot, like probably rip like every ace X, for instance. Um, he's incentivized to rip more when the big blind has 6 bigs, right? Because
Yeah,
the big blind's getting a really nice spot to peel almost anything if he min raises.
yeah.
Um, I think he's pretty happy ripping a lot of his ace X type stuff. His pairs are certainly ripping. You could make an argument for a bunch of like different suited things, like suited connectors or like king X suited and stuff. Because for everyone behind you, they're either short, and so like if they call off, it's not the end of the world for him, or they're a little bit deeper like you are, but then you have to call a lot tighter because,
Because you have the most to lose.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, but I wouldn't. I don't think he can rip any two or anything close to that. I mean, I think it's gonna be
Thanks,
a
Greg.
lot.
Greg said hit the like for Jesse's hoodie. I like that. Got a couple more questions in here. Let's see if anybody busts while we answer them.
Does your pre-flop range change if the tournament is a rebuy? Uh, I mean, in the rebuy period, I'll gamble it up a little bit more, but by that I just mean I won't like take the I won't make like a play that I think is like losing. I won't fold any spots where I think it's close, if that makes sense. If it's a really big field tournament, it's like one of the smaller buy-ins that I play. I might gamble it up a little bit because the value of going deep in those sort of things is really nice. And I want to do it more often, but I'm not like going crazy or anything because it's the rebuy period, that's for sure. So wait, we just lost that guy. What happened?
He jammed queen four off from the small blind, and big blind had pocket fives.
Oh, that was at the hand after spring shove. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
What was the other one? Curtis said, I've been opening a tad larger in late position, 2.2 to 2.5x, and smaller in early position. My thoughts are I'm going to open more hands from late position, so I want to extract more fold equity, and I don't know if that's right.
I don't know if that's the exact reasoning for it. I mean, you might be onto something with that, but I do the same thing as you, especially in cash. My reasoning for it is okay. Like let's talk about like the button. So let's say you just open bigger on the button. You're always going to play post flop in position when people call when you're on the button, right? So you're essentially building a slightly larger pot that you get to play when you have position, which on average is really nice.
Yeah.
So that's like my reasoning kind of for it.
I thought the other day you told me to min raise a button and 2.2 from the hijacker earlier.
No, other way around.
Dang
Min
it.
raise
I've been
from-
playing I played yesterday's session all backwards.
Also, if you think about it like this,
Uh-huh.
it's not just a position thing, but it's also like there's more people to 3-bet you, and you have to play an out of position 3-bet pot when they 3-bet you. So you want to keep the pot as small as possible
Right.
when you're like low jack or whatever, and they could 3-bet the button. But when you're on the button, there's only 2 people to 3-bet you, but one of them is a big blind who peels a lot, right? So like basically, like, there's a much higher frequency that you end up playing a 2-bet pot with the big blind, and so you want to pick a size that gets them to fold a little bit more, because getting the big blind to fold is a huge part of like your steals equity.
Okay. I'll let this play out. We're obviously folding that once this guy shoves.
Yeah.
Um,
If he had folded, man, that's rough. I feel like it's not the worst hand of all hands to be shoving. I don't know if that's actually right, but all options feel kind of gross. I think at most of these FTs I just raise it though, because I don't think people are gonna rip me in nearly wide enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if my opponents are really tough, I might just rip the Jack 10 suited if it
Yeah.
had folded to you.
Oh, wow. I don't know if that's a call off.
How many blinds did he have? 13? 12 and a half?
12 and a half. And he's neck and neck with the other shorty. And we don't have, I barely have any more than him, and the next big stack doesn't have that much more.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the closest spot so far.
Yeah, I think. Can we see the payouts?
Yeah. So this.
I think with 5 left, it might be a call. And if it was like 3 left and there was a shorter stack or a similar stack, it might be a fold.
Here's the payouts.
So your next pay jump. Your next 2 pay jumps is 1,800, which is like half of less than 1,800, which is like half of 1,600, which is like half of 3 pay jumps or 2 pay jumps later. Yeah, I think maybe his call is fine. You don't have ICMizer on here, do you?
Not like ready to go right now, but that could be one where we save. That could be one where we save for.
I wouldn't be surprised if we looked at it and his call was good.
Okay. Yeah. I just remember being surprised, so I didn't want to be so far. Like if I was in his position, I probably would have folded that.
I think
so. I don't want to be making mistakes in that spot.
It might be ace 8 plus, or something like that. It also might be, like ace 7 might be making like no equity, and you think you play better than people at the FT. You know what I mean? Like I think it's fine to fold. There's a lot of FTs where I just fold a lot because people are playing pretty bad and putting it in too late and blah blah blah. That makes our play really easy. I was gonna say if it folded to us, I feel like all the options are on the table. Because like limping is like.
Did we just have Scott in the chat?
Do we?
What's up? Yeah.
All right.
Oh, hello. Hunter. That is pretty funny. Okay, so what were you gonna say about this spot? There's a few questions that I see in chat. Don't worry, we'll get to them. What were you gonna say about this pre-flop spot?
If it had folded to us, I feel like all the options are like kind of on the table. Spring's been very aggressive, so limping to get like a limp jam in is like a little more exciting to me than against other players. Or like in a different final table, different players. And I mean, you could like limp call spring too and double up or whatever. I think I'm trying to think of like how I would rank it. It's probably something like I feel like jam and raise are close. And then probably limp is I don't know. Anyways, whatever. I think all the options are close.
Right.
I was trying to rank them, but I'm just lost. Anyways, once he raises, you have the
maybe Aaliyah's right. Maybe you haven't been awake for a week straight.
Probably have been.
Yay, we win the flip.
Oh my god, I remember sweating this.
This
one
is
from
the
my
whole
office.
lesson of class. This is how you win tournaments.
I thought for sure you'd hear me across the house.
What?
I made a very loud noise when you hit the turn.
Yeah. Pretty nice flip to win. Now we're down to, oh no, we were shorter, obviously, because that guy just doubled up.
What did he call you, a sevens?
Nines.
Oh, okay. Got the raise in. Oh, here we go.
Oh, Scott makes a good point. He said that guy calling ace seven would be a pretty clear second um, if he wins
Yeah.
and gets to stop Sprint from just jamming everything. So
Yeah.
he's
That
kind of
that
like helping out the whole table.
yeah. Well, also that just means like every future hand he plays is like a little higher equity,
hmm
right? And it's much lower equity if he folds because he just keeps getting shoved on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
A lot of you guys having different cash game questions, which is perfect for 2 weeks from now when we do a cash game coaching session. So 2 weeks from now, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Come to that. Um, let's see.
Yeah, Curtis, just start folding more of the low pairs, especially from early position or especially from like early middle versus a raise. But you can open fold like a lot of the lowest pairs from early position as well on shorter stacks. Like the shorter your stack gets, the more you want to prioritize hands that flop top pair. So like queen jack type of hands, and the less you want to prioritize hands that can flop like flop turn or river really big hands a small amount of the time. So like flopping a set's great, but when you're 20 blinds deep, it's nearly as valuable as flopping top pair, right? Like you're both are very happy to get it all in most of the time. Um, 5-6 suited is not very good from early position 20 blinds deep because yeah, your hand can make a flush, but it doesn't happen. It happens like 4% of the time, and we really want to just win the pot a really high percentage of the time. We don't want to win a big like we can't win that big of a pot when we make a flush because we're only 20 blinds deep. So you like the deeper you get, the more you prioritize these hands that can make bigger hands a small amount of the time, like pocket pairs and
Okay, so in this hand, I had pocket tens here in the hijack, and I opened to slightly bigger, like 2.2. Is this the type of stack size you open bigger into, or you want to target micro stacks?
Yeah, I think especially because it's the final table, him having 12 bigs is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like he should still be folding a good amount, but
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind sizing up anyways because you're under the gun 5-handed range. Like this is gonna be like the tightest you've ever opened the hijack with spring on the button and a bunch of short stacks, right? So I think that you could probably get away with sizing up a little bit anyways because your range is strong
Okay.
if you want to.
And
Yeah.
how about this flop?
Oh, great flop. I think it's pretty close between very small c bet and probably like one big blind and check.
Okay.
And I think that
Hey, Dan's in the chat.
I tend to base this off the player. If they stab a lot, if they've tended to like just stab a lot, then I might just c bet versus them with this type of hand because I don't want to check back and get them to bluff me off of my hand.
Oh, because you're thinking somebody who c-bets a lot is just going to expect you to c-bet a lot and attack you more when you check back?
No, I just mean a person who like stabs a lot. Like let's say that I've seen them stab turns a lot and stuff.
Oh,
like,
oh,
I feel like
stab
they're gonna
turn,
just
stab
like
turn.
go for it more.
I see.
So like I'd be pretty player based about whether I want to check back or not. But I think one big blind like with your whole range can't be bad after you've raised from the hijack because you just have a very strong range of hands here.
Yeah.
If you are gonna check back, like tens and queens are probably your best two hands to check back, and something like jack queen or jack 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't mind checking back. That's for sure. Now he bets smallish. Yeah, this really sucks. It's pretty player based. I think I'd imagine you can't be folding this hand in theory.
Okay.
I don't know what your thoughts are on this player. We've only seen him play a little bit.
What's up, KL?
KL.
We don't believe you for a second. What do you say? It's player dependent?
Yeah, I mean, it would be like a little player dependent for me. I would imagine in theory we're never folding this hand.
All right. Well, get ready. I think I might have folded.
I don't hate it. If he's been pretty straightforward post flop, I don't hate folding. Like you're just dead versus the hands that he's representing. So
eek, it's painful.
Yeah, I might just call and keep him honest and make him like, shove rivers.
Okay.
But
Scott said their defending range is high card dense. Okay.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They might hit that king and jack a lot.
They do hit the king and jack a lot.
Oh
That's why it
no!
sucks.
Was that a fold?
What happened?
I had ace 5 off.
Um,
versus yeah, he's got a chip lead still, but it's definitely less intense.
I think first the cutoff open, you probably have to call with this hand. I'd
Okay.
fold like I could see a world where we fold like ace deuce.
Okay.
I can't imagine that we. He's just gonna be incredibly wide here.
Yeah.
So like even with ICM, you just have this. In fact, I might just I might just rip it.
All right. So, can you just summarize as a concept, like speaking to me as your student,
Okay,
what
so
leap in logic am I missing that like I folded this hand and
okay,
you're either calling or just shipping it? Like,
okay,
what should I
okay.
be studying?
What what percentage of hands do you think he opens from the cutoff right now?
um, I don't know if it's actually as loose as you're kind of alluding to because he's got this 8 big blind stack behind that
Well, just give me a number, your best estimate.
um I don't know, maybe like 30% of hands or something like that.
Okay,
20,
that's
25.
see. I think you'd raise way more than that, but
You think you
that's
would
just
weigh
me.
way more than that? Okay.
I mean, is he really
So
not
that's
opening like Jack 5 suited? You just fold to Nags' jam, right?
yeah.
I don't know. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So basically, like
So
the
I need to study the chip leads side of things when I look at ICMizer and look at like
I
how wide they actually should be.
yeah, and also based on this guy's play, I expected him to be raising more than probably the chart would look like if you figured out an
Yeah.
ICM chart. But so like basically the idea is the closer you get to him raising 100%, the more you can treat his raise like a straddle. And if his raise was in fact a straddle, then we have like 13 straddles in our stack. And I'd be very happy to shove ace 5 blind versus blind into a straddle. Even if when I call, we always see the flop. So that's like kind of how I look
13
at it.
straddles. Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. A lot of people agreeing that a 3 bet some people are saying 3 bet fold is pretty cool.
I think 3-bet fold is real sweet.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool idea too. I might
Yeah, Don,
I
you're
might
you're right. Don's got it.
yeah, I might ship this one and 3-bet fold like ace 6 off or ace 4 off or something just cuz this is like your best
Mhm.
ace in that area, but
All right. Well, I'm going to play this
he also by the way guys, like we can't call light, but like he
Oh.
okay, that's fine.
That's why I
Yeah, that
folded.
makes sense.
Did everybody miss that except
He can't call light either. Like he's got to call quite tight against our jam.
wow. Okay, we totally missed that. Everyone, we missed the fact that small blind 3-bet. I can't imagine that I would freaking fold this, but I definitely would not have ripped or 3-bet folded. I know myself, I would have just peeled. So,
I don't think peeling's ever too bad.
okay.
I
All
mean,
is right in the
let me say that
world.
again. I think peeling's gonna be fine. I think ripping might be slightly better.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Andy was on the same page as me. But yeah, okay. So this is a totally different story, but it's cool that we broke it down anyway from
Yeah,
just like a single raised pot. But yeah.
I feel like, and somebody can correct me in chat if I'm wrong because I'm not always right about ICM spots. I feel like folding's out of the question with ace 5, and I feel like you could maybe consider folding with a hand like ace deuce offsuit or something like that, possibly.
Yeah. I would probably fold these two offsuit. I
Well,
mean,
in that case, then you might want to shove the ace deuce and call the ace 5 because
what do you think
he's
about the
not.
3-bet folding?
Yeah, I do it like some small frequency at a time, probably.
But you against this aggro of a chip leader, you'd rather shove because it's like a straddle, and against a
I'd rather if I'm all things equal, I'd rather 3-bet like ace 6
okay.
or something because it plays a little worse post flop, and I'd rather peel with this hand. And then you can also 3-bet like your king sixes and stuff like that. We've seen that a lot. But like, but yeah, I mean, if you're folding your ace deuces, then I'd shove those because there's no difference. He's not calling with fours
Yeah.
to your jam. So like there's no real difference between shoving ace deuce or shoving ace 5. Like they play the same versus calling range. So you want to shove the worst one if you're going to
Yeah.
call the other one anyways.
What did he call earlier that was kind of light? He might call fours.
Um
Not for 25 bigs.
No, he didn't call 20 blinds, did he? He called like 12 blinds with ace deuce.
Hello, Matute. What?
He called like 12 big blinds with ace deuce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way different than calling off your 25 big blind shove,
Yeah.
I think. What happened here? You just folded to an open. That seems fine. You could try to get away with a tiny 3-bet, but
Yeah, Andy, we would definitely run it in probably ICMizer or HRC, but we don't have that loaded up and ready to go. So we're just gonna wing it.
Did they
We've got
make
a
that
lot of
for,
really good players right now in the chat, by the way. So if you guys are reading some of their comments, maybe scroll the chat a little bit. We've got very good players in there that also play on global that know what they're talking about. What happened here? I just got it in pre. And now Mowgli's back to the 9 big blinds. All right. So we're just going to be getting it in with this guy.
It's a nice one to
That
see.
is a good one to be up against.
Nice hand.
Okay, 4 left. Ooh, this is a spot.
This is really weird.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Let us know the results. Por favor. All right.
So this is a hand that you're definitely not 3-betting any size except all in. I think peeling probably does fine. And this seems like not an incredibly tough final table, so I'd probably lean towards peeling it.
Okay. What do you guys do here? Look at this stack setup. We've got one guy with 9 blinds. We're slightly covered by Sprinks at this point, and third place has 22 bigs, 23 bigs.
We haven't really seen Big D do too much out of line stuff.
Yeah.
So I do feel like we just aren't going to be squeezed out of the pot very much. And
so you just want to peel?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't. Feels like everything's just going to be very, very low EV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very awkward stack size, Curtis. He said you should peel. If I have 22 bigs, I rip. Everybody's saying call, call, call.
Yeah, I don't mind shoving.
I have a prediction. I'm not gonna do that.
I don't think shoving is gonna be terrible because I think Spring is at this point pretty clearly opening ungodly wide.
Yeah.
So it's not. You're just gonna get a fold like a huge percentage of time, like probably like. I mean, keep in mind that if he's opening like 60% of hands and he's calling off like 6%, then you get folds 90% of the time. And of that 6% of hands that he calls, you're flipping against some of them. So I think that jamming is not nearly as high variance as people think.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
You're mostly just picking up 3.5, 4 big blinds.
Okay,
and that's really nice.
Yeah, especially when it makes me compete with first place.
If you were like 25 deep, I would certainly shove. I think on the stack size, maybe shove is
still fine.
Yeah, I think it's worth at least considering. Oh yeah, high hands definitely pure rip on CEV. And like, while we're less excited to put money in the pot because of ICM, like he's also opening more than CEV. So that's like my main argument for shoving.
Well,
yeah, actually pull up Floptimal.
Pull up Floptimal, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna battle.
So we ripped
KL
it.
has his own site, so I'm just gonna try to mess them by pulling up Floptimal. But yeah,
spoiler, we shoved. All right, what are we looking at?
I think this is probably.
So cut off.
This is at least close to optimal, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Tiny sliver. The yellow is all in. 16%.
Well, I mean, you could treat the green like yellow because we're not. The solver's gonna 3-bet call sometimes, but that's just insane.
Yeah.
At the final table. I'm starting to feel like this guy's just opening nearly any 2, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
Which makes our shove quite good.
AJ's with me. He said he'd rather shove than just 3-bet normal.
Oh yeah, I think that with
at
a
least
hand
I've
like
got
this,
AJ's got my back.
With a hand like this, 3-betting normal is just like out the door. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You need blockers of some
Curtis
sort.
said if you jam, you fold out 6s through 9s. So there's that.
Yeah, he might call 9s exactly. He'd be close with 8s. Oh, this is a fun one.
Mr. Sadie said, I have small blind PTSD, so don't listen to me. All right, we finally get a premium.
It would be real close with 8s. I feel like maybe 9s is real close too, but this is a fun hand. So, what are your thoughts on flop?
Okay. Sorry, I was reading some comments here real quick before they passed me by here. Dan said, five-handed ICM, cutoff open. Oh, he was talking
Oh, that
about the
was
ace five off. Yeah.
and that was in small blind too.
Yeah.
Well, that I mean, that's pretty different because you get to just call out of the big blind, so it's
Yeah.
a little weird.
Yeah, I agree, AJ. Alex, no, they do not have ICM mode. All right, so now we've got a good hand.
Yep.
Against the other big stack who does still cover us.
Yeah. So, what do you like on flop here?
I definitely want to be putting some chips in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, especially with the club, we're not really worried about like a lot of turn cards. So I don't know if we need to go too big.
Sure. Especially with kings.
Yeah.
I think that, well, actually, kings and queens are probably very similar because his peels versus your c bet are going to be like ace 5, ace 4, so they still have an overcard either way. But having a club is nice. I think on this type of board you generally like want to be in the 40 to 50% area, and then with ICM I'd probably just size it down to like 30 or 25%.
Okay, let's see. See what we picked. Make it good past me. What about
Nice.
this?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Yay. Curtis wanted to bet 1.25 big blinds, but we were almost there. All right, now what?
Okay, so he raises. We don't block any 9s, so re-raising is, a reasonable thing. I think with a club, I mean, we're just so incentivized with stacks to play a more passive strategy that I don't think that re-raising is as exciting because um I think like our flush draws, like all of our kind of like draws or whatever, really just want to be playing a call strategy for the most part.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes me want to also call with a lot of like some of our value hands, and I feel like kings with a club is a good one to call with. So I think calling here is pretty good.
Curtis
And then get it in
weighing
on
in.
turn
He
or
says
whatever.
call and let him blast off. AJ saying I flat, especially with the club.
Yeah, I think this is nice.
Mr. Sadie said, do you ever check to induce here?
I think I was like considering that if you were deeper, maybe. I feel like just giving yourself the opportunity to put a lot of chips in the pot is really nice. But yes, like long story short, if you're going to trap any overpair hands, it's going to be aces or kings with a club. And so I think it's like not terribly unreasonable to do that. But
All right, that's what we do. We flat.
I just generally think that your range is strong enough that you should just be c-betting a lot, probably.
Okay.
He
So
bets turn.
he bets turn, less than half pot.
Yeah, he goes really small. This is
Mr. Sadie, I'm dying on this hill at this point. Okay.
what hell?
I don't know. I just thought it was funny. What's up, Chad? Are you thinking about the turn? Don't get distracted. You're the coach.
I think that it's close on the turn between getting it in now and calling. If you think that he plays pretty well, if you've seen him play at all, he shouldn't be barreling the turn with too many flush draws or Jack 10 or whatever, because bet folding really sucks. In which case, I think you have a stronger argument for calling because most of his bluff should come out of like the mostly like airball type of hands,
Yeah.
like gutters or um
Like the 6-5s of the world and stuff like that.
wow, the world. Well, that's a double gutter.
Yeah.
Um
It's a pretty good one.
just like using that phrase. So, yeah, I see strong arguments for calling here. Um
Curtis says call. Jamming can't be terrible.
yeah, so you need him to show up with like some pretty weak sauce bluffs.
Steve
Maybe
said
something
keep
like
his bluffs in since you're in position.
maybe he has something like king. Well, you can't have king four with a club. Um, yeah, I think the way that people play is they barrel far too much with like straight draws and flush draws, and the way that we punish that is by shoving the turn. So I generally lean towards shoving the turn.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
that said, I think in theory you do a lot of calling because you're trying to play past strategy and because you have the king of clubs.
Okay.
Um,
Well, let's see what happens.
so you're blocking a lot of the club hands that could bet call it off.
We just called.
Yeah, we just river the nuts.
Did I fail?
No, I think your call's fine.
Okay.
I think how people play, I just tend to like shoving turn because people just like they just do stuff like bet Jack 10 and then you shove and they don't know. They're like, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah,
And it's like really nice.
that's true.
Now, does that mean that we have to shove kings? Maybe not. Like we'd probably rather shove ace 9 than kings because he doesn't really have many overpairs and we're blocking a set at least. And yeah, it's a more vulnerable hand. Like for instance, if he did bet Jack 10, ace 9, they have a lot more outs versus ace 9.
Right.
So yeah, I think calling kings makes sense to me. Um, but it's close.
All right. Well, we just river the stone cold nuts.
Yeah, this was
So
great.
no worries. This is how you win a tournament.
So there was a fun thing going on here. You checked, he checked, and obviously Ashley, well, not obviously, but Ashley shoves. You could also, I mean, because like I think you just jam and hope that he like calls off with a 9 or whatever. He could also be, but I think there's a strong argument with top set to betting small.
Okay.
To potentially induce some weird check jam when he has a bluff, and because if he does have what he was representing on the turn, like two pair
Yeah.
or a set, he's gonna put the money in anyways. And like what hands only call a small bet but would call a big all in, and what hands would you get more value from betting small? If you bet small, you might induce some sort of weird jam with bluff, right? If you bet big, you could have something like ace 9, and
Yeah.
that might hero you off, but it'll just happily call a small bet. So that's like kind of nice.
Okay.
Um, the fact that he checked the river kind of quickly makes me think that he's more likely to have like the ace 9 type of stuff because it's a big pot and he just like checked immediately. And like if
Yeah.
he had a draw, he'd probably think about bluffing with it, right?
Yeah.
Next draw. So I like your jam. But what I was gonna say is, so I'm in my office and Ashley has her chat turned off, but I can see the chat on my computer. And while you're all in, I didn't know what you had, but I watched the guy write. He's so nice, this spring guy. He wrote like, he was like, well, either way, if you have it or not, like I got to go with my read. He's like, nice hand either way, blah blah blah. And then he
Aw.
calls. Sorry to spoil it. He calls, and then afterwards he was just like, nice hand, good game. He just like kept like, I was just like, man, I wouldn't have typed anything. I'd just be over there like, stupid river card or whatever.
I was ahead the whole way. Come on.
No, well, sorry, whatever, stupid run out or whatever it is.
Randy, yeah, if you guys are wondering what they have on global, if they call off, you can't they muck the cards so they don't flip them face up. So I don't know what he had. We will
Yeah.
never know. He had a good enough hand to call basically all in with. So probably something like Jesse was talking about, like an ace 9 type of hand.
Yeah.
Check raise a flop, continue barreling on the turn, but not for too large. And then checks when the king comes.
What happened there? Oh, he won.
Um,
we want a little side pot.
Yeah, so we just we just min raise the short stack and the big blind comes along and we just check it down to because we're likely to bust the.
I wonder if you just shove free. or like maybe like 3x pre.
Okay.
I think you want to create a size where Mowgli has pretty bad pot odds, especially when Spring folds. Maybe like 2.5x is good. He's got to fold a lot anyways because he has to wait out Spring. So if
Yeah.
Spring does fold, like even a min raise is tough. So min raise is probably fine. That sucks.
All
Oh
right.
wow, Scott said King 6 pure all in pre.
Oh.
Look at that.
Okay, so let's look at that because that is something that goes over my head for sure. You're talking about this spot.
Yeah, so basically, um, there's a chance that Spring just puts it in with everything anyways. But if you shove pre, Big D has to fold just about everything
Yeah.
because there's like two very short stacks behind.
Right.
So
right.
he's sad when he looks down at like tens,
Yeah.
whatever.
And Mowgli is just like doing cartwheels because I gave him a good price to just see.
Yeah, I mean it's not great. I mean he's not. Yeah, but also here's the thing: like Spring, the downside of shoving is like you're gonna be all in with Spring a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Spring actually could fold some hands because there's a non-zero chance that an
Mowgli
all-in
goes out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Spring.
Yeah, Curtis, that's a good point. He said, I think Big D even has to fold jacks here. What do you think is his calling range?
I mean,
With this guy having one big
run
blind.
it, but it's
Andy, are you still here? Can you run it?
We can run it. It's going to be quite tight. I don't know. Doubling up has a lot of value because now you're even stacked and he's on your left. So that actually, there's a tremendous amount of value in doubling up. But,
Okay.
But man, there's a lot of value in just one page jump because I think
Okay.
it's like $800 at this point.
Mm-hmm. I think I would have gotten there. I just need to take an extra second. Like it seemed like I just kind of went into autopilot. So just like take a second.
I mean, I think all decisions are going to be somewhat close in EV. So I'm not like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, but it's
folding
still
would be pretty bad.
It's still nice to not. Yeah, folding would be pretty bad. All right. So anyway, Spring doubles up, and then I think Bus shortly after, maybe the next hand.
I also think that Spring's going to call it off more than he should because he's probably just tilted about that. Not tilted, but he's just like over it after the last hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait, he's not tilted. He sent a nice message
or whatever.
in chat.
Yeah, he's just probably like, he's not folding in my mind.
Okay, 3 left. We're in a very good spot.
But there isn't a lot of value in him doubling, and there is a lot of value in Mowgli going out before him. So I do think he's supposed to fold some hands when you shove, probably.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple people are curious actually about that, so I'm gonna stop getting ahead of myself here. People want to know what the pay jumps are for this exact spot, and what exactly is the worst hand that he'll call. So let me just jump to the payout real quick.
Well, I can't give you the answer on the worst hand because we don't have ICMI.
Yeah. So the jump from 4th to 3rd is $1,300. You guys are wondering?
No, it's 1,000.
Huh? From 4th to 3rd?
Or it's $900.
13. Oh, sorry. I thought I saw 39. It's only $1,000. Yeah, a little less than $1,000 for a $200 tournament.
But it's almost the same as the next jump. It's like 900, and then the next jump's like 1150. So it's a pretty good one to lock up, especially when you're competing with a couple other stacks and there's one huge stack.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, a couple people saying they'll call queens plus only. So
possible. I think a lot of your shoves are going to come out of like the ace low card, king low card suited type stuff.
Yeah.
Or off suited ace. So I don't think that queens and jacks are all that different.
Fair enough, Andy. He said I'm not running that. King 6 is jam. Okay. Cool. Well, Penguins. Which tourney was this? It was just the Sunday Blitz on Global.
If you run it as jam versus fold, it's going to be a jam. But if you have a way to look at some other sizes, which is a lot more complicated, it might be something else. But you're right that if it's jam versus fold, it's going to shove.
Is this one correct?
Or yeah, no? I like this too.
Okay. All right. Well, we
because
got one.
it's the same thing. Big D just has to fold a ton, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know if Mowgli's going to call off, and then Mowgli does fold a lot, so you just get through.
Yeah.
Basically, like the way that I would like visualize this sort of spot, you can pause for 1 sec, is like you shove, like if you look at like a hand chart. Like, can we go over to this guy?
Yeah.
If you look at any hand chart, maybe just look at like whatever. If you look at like all the hands in this chart, this whole like the middling kind of like
You want the
suited.
mouse?
Yeah, thank you.
You can give them the pointer.
So if you look at any hand chart, like a bunch of these middling hands that don't want to raise fold are going to do a lot of shoving. A bunch of these ace-X that don't want to raise fold are going to do a lot of shoving. And then you're going to have like this nice grouping of hands that raise call that are like really strong, and then this grouping of hands that want to raise fold that are really weak. So it'll be like the all-ins will be like the wings, and then like the top and bottom portions will be like your raise, do whatevers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I would look at these spots.
Okay.
Like King 4 to me is like a hand that doesn't really want to raise fold.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's in that middle grouping.
but if Big D's playing really tight, you could also just like 2.7x and call off Mowgli and like fold if Big D jams if they do wake up with a hand.
Yeah.
Because there are people who nearly go all in with the same range of hands that they call with, and against those people, obviously, you want to raise fold.
So Mowgli goes all in, 15 bigs, gets called by sixes, and wins the flip.
Wow.
So Big D just hung on for dear life for so long. All right, what is the strategy here? This guy's got 3 blinds. Mowgli's got 30. Because now he's got 30. He can do damage to my stack at this point.
I mean, I think that this hand folds.
Okay.
There's a lot of value for you in. If Mowgli had like 20 or 15, it might be different, but there's just like a lot of value for you in folding and letting them clash.
Yeah. And for just keeping around a micro stack.
Yeah, you're not like happy, or you're not even like, it's not good when Big D goes all in, which is going to happen a lot, and you have to call off with 10-7. And playing a pot with Mowgli isn't particularly exciting either with this hand.
Okay.
But mostly it's just the fact that their 2 stacks will collide a lot.
Yay, I folded.
I like it. You played really well so far.
Thanks, babe.
I mean,
couple close calls.
I mean, all the spots that you're like, oh, well, I did this. It's like, yeah, well, I think that's probably very close.
Okay, that's good.
So I feel like you're if anything, you're a little.
Here we go. Heads up.
Yeah.
I'm a heads up professional. Just kidding. I never play heads up. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm not. Should we play this out? Should we just skip?
No, let's do it. We could do
All
it.
right,
Let's do it fast.
Yeah.
So you check here. I like it. It's kind of like a middling hand that just wants to see the flop a lot. He checks back, which is a little weird. You should be betting this board a lot. As far as bluffs go, I think this one's a pretty good bluff, just because you have sort of like a nut low-ish type of hand.
Yay, we got it.
I think you could definitely bluff it at some frequency. You raise here. You're probably playing a very high limb strategy, but if you want to start out by just testing your opponent and seeing how they respond to raises, and if they actually 3-bet enough or not, that's fine with me. You check back. I think with precisely clubs, it's probably a reasonable one.
Yeah, it just didn't feel really, it felt like if I have clubs, they have more backdoor flush draws, right? So it's like.
Yeah, that's true. I think if you have like King 6, you're more happy to check back, and Queen 6 is a little happier betting. You want to just think about heads up a lot as like
showdown.
Yeah, like am I checking back a lot of my showdownable hands, and what am I betting with or whatever?
Okay.
Because you have really wide ranges, so you just can't be like, you can be c betting everything, but if your opponent is aggressive enough, it's not going to be your best strategy. What happened? You bet very small on the turn.
Yeah,
I mean, you're certainly not holding the turn. I remember this hand now. He checks river, right?
How do you remember these things? I can't remember, and I played the damn.
Because I was thinking about what to do, so.
Okay, so he bet.
He had a 5.
If I was him, I would probably just check that on the turn. Is that
Yeah,
bad?
checking turn's really
Okay.
good
Seven
because
five. It's like you have a pair. You actually have showdown. You don't want to get raised off your straight draw. I mean, you wouldn't. Probably, yeah,
you
it's
want to
just
you want to
awkward.
protect your turn checking range a bit, and this is a great hand to do it with because you have a lot of good river card coverage, and you
Hmm.
don't have a hand that can get two streets. So it's like a really classic type of hand to check on the turn again
Yeah.
as him.
Alex said VPIP is 100 on the button at this depth? Question mark.
It's like 98% or something like that. I think you fold like exactly seven deuce off or three deuce off or something like that, but you're also limping a ton.
Yeah, that's John Doe also asked that. What about limp? I'm not sure which hand he's talking about, but he was talking about limps as well.
Actually, keep in mind, guys, that I'm like basing this off of there being a little bit more of an ante in there. So like I'm not 100% sure with this small of an ante, but I'm pretty sure that we're VPIPing like 98% of hands. So yeah, if you want to VPIP 100% of hands and you're mixing in limps, I think it's going to play really well for you. Sorry, did you say
No,
something
no.
different?
All right, so this was raise and we called, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Min raise, we call.
Check.
There's only 5 minutes left in this tournament, you guys. You guys sticking it out.
Yeah,
We're almost
go.
there.
Yeah, you have a backdoor straight draw. I'm
Yeah.
not thrilled, but I think we just call.
Doesn't feel great, but we have a pair. We're playing heads up. I don't know.
Yeah, I would call.
He snapchecks back river. I don't see really a point in betting, to be honest.
Well, you could try to bluff him off of like a nine or something like pocket fives. You also prevent yourself from getting bluffed on the river. But I'm trying to think of what. So like whenever you think about bluffing with a hand, you especially with a pair, you want to think about, do I have better hands to bluff with? You've got a lot of clubs that bricked, and you've got some 10 high diamonds and some jack high diamonds. Like if you have like jack eight of diamonds, you're not gonna. I think you're gonna peel flop. I think. So yeah, I think between that and the clubs, I think you just have enough hands that you don't really want to be bluffing with a pair
Okay.
too much here. Now, if you want to bluff too much, maybe go for it. Also, if you're gonna bluff, I'd go fairly big because you're basically asking a better hand than bottom pair to fold, which heads up is a tall order, so you should really size up. You can keep playing while I talk.
Okay. Well, it's hard because now the next street. I mean, this I think is a fold. So.
Yeah. Versus bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have like the worst hand we ever get to river with. Pretty much. Well, worst hand that we get to river with that we don't bet.
Randy.
Limping is pimping. I like it.
All right, first three bet. We got
First
the word.
fold.
Yeah. So now he's calling.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's a hand you could potentially ISO some of the time, but
because it's just so bad.
Yeah, I think the shorter. I mean, we're getting a little deeper, so maybe use some suited hands. But like the shorter you get, the more you want to be polar with your ISOs, and then flop you could lead. I think leading makes some sense, but you don't need to. When he bets, I'd lean towards check raising this flop.
Okay.
I think we
have the gutter and so yeah.
Yeah, like our hand just has we probably have the best hand a lot, but also just has a tremendous amount of equity.
Yeah.
And it's vulnerable, so it comes off to me like a hand that we want to be check raising some amount of the time.
Scott said we should donk this one.
That's what I said.
He said first the limp specifically.
Yeah.
We're gonna always listen to what Scott says. Okay, do you ever lead this now?
Yeah, I would lead this turn.
Okay.
A good bit. And you could probably lead a bunch of fours. The fact that you didn't decide to play a lead strat on the flop, or I assume you didn't. Maybe you did, but you just didn't want to lead this hand. But I have a feeling that you just. I don't see you donk much on flop, so I assume that you're not donking here. That makes me think that I want to lead even more on the turn because you have all of your strong hands from the flop.
Yeah, that's true.
And you didn't check raise a hand this strong, so you probably just have more strong hands than you even should.
Yeah.
He raises. I remember this hand. Thinking about this. his really small raise makes me think that he's just trying to show down. Um,
So
but
you want to 3-bet this turn.
as an
It's so
exploit,
weird though because like I know that's going to make people's kind of like spidey senses go off because you just don't see 3-bets on the turn that often, when people are bluffing.
well, especially not like lead 3-bets.
Lead 3-bet, it's just
Lead half
you
pot
get to
3-bet.
this, you go down this path where it's just like hard for you to be bluffing anymore.
Yeah, I think that you're calling here
Okay.
as a thing and trying to let him bluff, and I think that's perfectly fine. But I'm just saying, like, as an exploit, when people take the smaller size, I often think that it's indicative of a hand that wants to see showdown, and so I want to stop them from seeing showdown. It looks like he ended up having a pure bluff, so
Queen
like
10 off.
you did all you could do to get him to put more money in the pot. But,
Right. Score.
that's another thing. Like, people will bluff and then just give up on the river a lot too. So like that also makes me want to put in a 3-bet potentially. But you could put in a 3-bet with like king 6, you know what I mean? Or some other 6 that's
Yeah.
actually beating a 6.
Yeah.
This is close.
You think it is? Too loose?
We can look it up later, but I think you could probably get away with a fold on this hand, especially when he's got like a limp strat and people aren't very balanced with their raise strats, so they're probably a little too like value oriented when they actually raise.
Okay.
I don't know.
Ooh, pocket pair, less than 30 bigs. You
Yeah,
don't.
I mean,
what?
I'm playing a lot of limps,
Okay.
and so I would be limp shoving this hand.
Okay. So I think normally I would start limping like 20 big blinds deep.
I think you could do it. Like, if you want to play
It sucks because like this hand really does. I want to limp shove with this hand, because it's so perfect for it. But I feel like for it to be the first, and there's also the added bonus that because it's the first limp, you might attack it a little more, thinking that's kind of weak.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then I can shove.
Sure, yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. By the way, like if I think 30 blinds deep, you should still limp a lot. But like if you wanna raise a lot versus somebody.
Oh man, he just checked back though.
If you want to raise a lot versus somebody in general, it's fine. Like, people don't defend against it enough. 3-bets.
Do you like this c-bet?
Yes, very much so. I would just c-bet like everything here.
Now we get raised again.
Yeah,
this guy's
so
going off.
If you're ever gonna 3-bet a flop, this might be the hand to do it because it's a very vulnerable pair that beats a 3. So I think it's like a reasonable one to do it with.
What size do you 3-bet to though?
Like 6.5. But I mean, if you just play call, like if you just only call with all of your hands here, I think it's perfectly fine.
Okay. Sorry guys, we're gonna go hyper speed in these last few minutes. I know we're supposed to only do an hour, but I hope you guys are enjoying it.
Hour and a half. I would bet really small here if I'm betting like 1.5 bigs or something like that.
Oh, way smaller than what I did.
I think so.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I think these spots are like 20% or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, especially with like that 7-5 bet from him, I just think that if he's betting 7-5, he can put me on like a worse hand than 4s. Like just
yeah, maybe.
Like Randy keeps saying in chat, like people expect you to play like they play, or they'll think through the hand from your perspective like they would play the hand. So if I'm thinking that way against him, betting, he doesn't give much credence to like betting because he'll bet with 4th pair. You know?
I think on this board you have a really strong range. Most of your floats have an ace in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you'll have like some king 10 of clubs type of hands, but those might even want to check. And when you have like a 3 or whatever, denying equity at a very cheap price is kind of nice. And you just like, you have so many strong hands and so few weak hands on this board that I think you just want to go really small on the turn.
Okay.
It's also a board where like if you have an ace and he has worse, like an ace is either way ahead or way behind. It's mostly way ahead, so it doesn't need to go big, right?
Yeah. That's true.
But I wouldn't be like,
I would want to string him along.
If you're supposed to just like check a lot and then bet big when you do bet, and it's more polar, I wouldn't be like terribly surprised.
Oh, thanks, Chad. I appreciate that.
Oh, I remember this hand. This is the hand that you. Oh.
Wow, spoiler corner right here.
So
All right, so it's another. No, he min raised.
yeah,
He doesn't know what he wants to do. All right, he's min raising this one. I check. He only bets one big blind. We've got top two. I
mean,
want to raise this.
yeah, definitely raise.
I mean, it's
the
not.
only two pair that I'm like super interested in check calling is 10-3.
Yeah.
Because if you have 7-3, you're unblocking all the tens, and when you have top two, it's just so strong that I think you could consider slow playing this flop just because you block so much of his value, but he should just be calling your check raise with like gutters and overcards and cards with a backdoor flush draw, like hands with a backdoor flush draw that like you just very happily raise this hand.
What do you think about this sizing on the turn?
I like it. Honestly, like when the 8 comes off, so much stuff gets there that you're probably supposed to go even smaller. Maybe you're supposed to go like 3 or 4 bigs.
Oh wow.
And then still shove the river. But I think like against the player pool, this is fine.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to get as much money versus like 7-9 now as I can, or like 3-9. So cheating up seems good. I do feel like you do a lot of small betting, but I might be wrong about that. Maybe you just bet big on the turn, or bigger.
All right, that's a pretty clean run out. Time to ship it, I think.
Time to win the tournament. He took a little bit.
Yay!
Yay! Well done, baby.
That's all it takes, you guys. Win all of your flips and cooler the crap out of people, make 2 pairs and make sets a lot. That's all.
I think you only won 1 flip.
Yeah, but I ran really hot post flop. All these spots.
Sure, but you played them well too.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Said thank you, Ashley and Jesse. Learned so much the last 4 months. You are awesome. Yeah, so that's the whole shebang for today, you guys. I tried to get to as many questions as we could throughout the day. And yeah, like I said, 2 weeks from now, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, we'll see you guys for a cash game session. So I know a lot of you guys play low stakes cash. I'm going to be in those streets for the next couple of weeks, so I'll have a lot of questions alongside of you guys. So see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you then. Bye, everybody.